Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Spence and Marissa here with Core 4x4. We're back in our studio and we're really excited to be continuing with our XJ series over here. She's got a nice new shiny bumper on her, so we really want to keep upgrading, and we're going to be doing some front fender flares today.
Yeah, and she has needed some flares for a while. Ever since we put the lift kit on and went out and did that flex test, we tucked this tire, and this is a 35-inch tire, all the way up into the fender, bent it up a little bit, and I didn't want to bump stop anymore, so we're going to go with a flare that allows us to trim out a little of the fender and give us some more up travel. So we're going to get it up in the air, get the tire off, and we'll start talking about that. So we went with the Bushwhacker flat flares because you do actually trim the fender to give you some more of that up travel that we need on this Cherokee. If you're running bigger tires, if you're having any of those issues, this really helps with that, to open up your wheel well and give you the clearance you need when you're flexing out. This kit is also a plastic flare, which is a lot more forgiving off-road, and they're not going to cause the same body damage you would cause if you were running metal flares. Now, before we get to measuring and cutting, I did want to talk a little bit about what's in the kit and what you need to do this install. In the kit, Bushwhacker does include the 2 front flares, but also your fender flare supports that get bolted to your Jeep, your fender flare seals, and all the necessary hardware. Now, on top of that, you're going to need a small socket set, a couple screwdrivers, something to mark with, drill bits and a drill, an angle grinder with a cutoff wheel for all your trimming. And I also grabbed a grinder with a flap disc so we can smooth out all our edges after we cut our fender. And then after that, we always want a rattle can just so we're not rusting right away. And as always, safety glasses. So our first step to getting these flares on is to get our hole drilled for that inner fender support. And to do that, we need a reference line pulled off this front edge of the fender at 3 3/4 inches. And then we're going to line up the support with these 2 holes and our reference line. And we're going to drill our hole here for our first mount. So for these holes that we're drilling, we're using a 1/4 inch drill bit. Now you can start with a smaller drill bit and run a pilot hole and go bigger. I'm just going to try to keep it right on. So at this point, we're just hand tightening everything, because then we're going to get the rear fender support on, and then we're going to be able to mark where we're going to trim the fender. All right, so the back side of the driver fender flare, we're going to be working with this section right here. We need to give ourselves a reference edge to put our inner fender support up against, but you have your body line here. On this section, from this edge, you're going to pull a 4 1/2 inch mark to here, and on this corner, we're going to go 6 1/8. And that's going to give us a line that we can line up that inner fender support with. So now we have our inner fender supports just hand tied on right now, just to give us an edge to mark along to do all our trimming. Now when you get to the driver's side lower down here, we are going to do it a little differently. There is a little bit of cutting and folding just to give you a better look, a better edge, and not to have a wide open gaping hole here. And I'll show you how to do that. All right, so that should give us a nice edge. Let's take it off. We're going to mark our lines for cutting here. I'll show you how to do that, and then we'll trim the rest of this fender. Now for this section, we are going to mark about 1.5 inches apart some horizontal cuts, because we're going to be folding this panel in to give us a nicer edge. All right, so now that we're all marked out, let's get to cutting. So now that we got the back part of our fender cut, trimmed, and bent in out of the way, we're gonna do something similar to the pinch seam back here. We're gonna do some horizontal cuts, and then we're gonna take the hammer and bend it flat against the wheel well here. And then the last bit of trimming is gonna be this bottom section down here. We're just gonna cut that out of the way. So we got all our trimming done. We bent in the rear section of the flare to give us some more tire clearance. And I threw some rattle can on to keep us from rusting. While the paint's drying, we're gonna go to the other side and get it to a similar point. All right, so we've gotten through our drilling, our trimming, and our painting, and we're just about ready to bolt all these on. But I did want to take a second and mention that if you are going to reuse your inner fender liner here, there is some additional trimming to make it work. We are going to leave ours off for now, but really all that's left for the flares is bolting on the fender supports, and then there's some nut tabs we need to make sure are on there before we slide our new fenders on, as well as the seals. So after getting the fender supports bolted on, I kind of changed my mind on the inner fender liner, so we are going to put it on. You just hold it up and you want to trim it so it's flush with your sheet metal. It's actually pretty easy. We're just going to hold it up, do some trimming to make it line up with our new cuts, and then we're going to bolt it in. Now we're on to our last step, which is just removing the last of the tape on the fender seal that we put on earlier, and then just sliding it on and bolting it up. All right, everything on the driver's side went together pretty seamlessly. I did need a bit of a pick just to line up the holes with the nut tabs. I'd recommend using that, but everything is nice and tight against the body. The Rhinoline and the seal is a little funky, but you probably don't have a Rhinoline on your Jeep, so it should seal up nicely. Other than that, it's time to do the passenger side, and then we're done.
All right, so we've got the new flares on and they look so much better now.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably your most intensive install. What'd you think?
Yeah, it wasn't actually that bad.
Oh, I did all the work, so it was pretty easy.
Yeah, I just kind of stood there for most of it.
Just hand me tools, hold up the flare. Yeah, it went together really well,
Yeah.
and we got the inner liners in, so it's actually a lot cleaner, and we have a bit of a splash guard in there. I'm stoked to have all the extra clearance around the tire. That's the whole point of these flat flares. And as always, these Bushwhacker flat flares will have linked down in the description below. So if you like them, check them out. Pretty straightforward install, a little extra work with the trimming and everything, but I mean, if you have an angle grinder and a hammer at home, you can do this in your driveway. On the passenger side, we didn't even take the wheel off. It wasn't in the way.
Yeah, that was good.
So yeah, I'm stoked to try these. We will be doing the rears in the next video, so stay tuned for that. And as always, if you like our content, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out, and we'll see you in the next one.